I have been back in LA, and lately I've actually really been wanting to get a new game. Might do a little bit of game shopping. I went to Best Buy this morning, and they didn't really have what I was looking for, so now I'm at GameStop to see if they have anything. Decisions to be made. I couldn't beat it. I had to get Final Fantasy Tactics. The sad thing to me is what I did yesterday afternoon, just walking to a game store to go and pick up a physical copy of a game, just to get out of my house, to get some fresh air, just having the enjoyment of perusing and browsing through a wall full of games will soon no longer be a thing. With the announcement that 2028 will be the end of an era, there will no longer be a physical release of any new titles by the publisher of PlayStation. And I have a feeling that Xbox will probably be soon to follow. Well, I might have been a little bit dramatic with that, but I'm definitely sad that physical gaming is disappearing. Now, I don't traditionally like to make negative things on this channel. I feel like there's a lot of negativity towards video games and the video game industry, along with just media in general. But what just happened a couple days ago with PlayStation announcing that in 2028, all physical games will basically disappear touches on something very similar to the way that I talked about mass market paperbacks. This is another form of physical media that is disappearing. I like physical media. I don't know if you could tell with my shelves and shelves of books and video games. And the main reason that I like to have physical media is because it really does feel like I own it versus having a digital license of something. It can be altered, taken away, changed by a company, whether I like it or not. At least with this physical book that I have back here, I can write in it. I can decide what I want to do with this version of the book. It does really feel like mine. Ultimately, most of the time, it just ends up going back on a shelf. But the fact that I have this book and I can kind of create a curated library of my own is very nice. I can decide whether or not I want to sell it or donate it. I only really like to keep all the books that I like, and it's kind of the same for games. If I don't like a game, I can bring it into GameStop and I can trade it in. I really only keep the things that I really enjoy. With having a digital copy, these companies can change the wording and the way that things are in a book. With having this physical version of this book, these words aren't just going to disappear and change, or my license to the book in general to be able to read it won't just be revoked one day. I mean, games are the same way. If it's all on the physical card, you can play the original version of that game. Though there may be digital updates later on, you can ultimately delete those and put the game back in and start fresh and not have all of those updates. I mean, the idea of licensing and things like that have grown so much that even large news outlets like CNN are even touching on it. It's been that big of a deal. The idea that you will own nothing and be happy with it. I actually don't really want to talk about this video in the specific lens of talking about PlayStation because I feel like they are the first domino to fall for the avalanche of companies that are going to switch entirely to digital. Most of these companies that produce games are trying to find any way in an industry that seems to be less and less profitable by the days to get some sort of profit. With the rise of game studio costs to make, as well as just the price of making consoles and gaming getting very expensive in general. I found it shocking when actually looking at the numbers that it's estimated to be around 85% of players playing digital over the small minority of 15% of people actually purchasing physical copies. It makes sense. I've seen this trend going on for quite a while now, especially since game stores seem to have less and less people and it becoming harder and harder to find physical copies for the latest releases. I actually this year had a very hard time finding copies of games like Resident Evil Requiem for Switch, which I feel like they only purchased a couple copy of at each game store, so it's sold out. As well as Crimson Desert seemed to be very difficult for me to find day of. None of my game stores that are around me seem to have the latest releases because they're only purchasing a couple copies because not many people are actually buying physical games anymore. I initially saw this trend of people not buying physical games and physical media in general through a lot of my friends. I am one of the only ones that likes to buy physical books and buy physical games. My brother really likes games and plays games. He mainly plays games like FIFA, but I cannot remember the last time that that he has bought a physical version of a game other than when I buy him a game. He is your average consumer that enjoys just having that piece of media and doesn't really care about having a tangible item and is more for the convenience of just downloading it on a store. He doesn't have to leave his home. He can just buy the game right on his actual device. Physical disc and cartridges are kind of a nuisance. They can be scratched, broken. Also, this is kind of how I have experienced games for majority of my life. Having a physical copy, going to a store when I was younger was always very, very fun. The thing that is really interesting to me is this is actually one of the last mediums out of like films, television shows, and music to hold on to a physical version, releasing alongside of a digital version. For music and for films and for television shows, people actually prefer to use streaming services like, Netflix, Spotify, over owning all of the movies that they've ever watched. Gaming really was one of the last things to hold on to a physical version. Also, with digital media and these interfaces that are created by these consoles, things just get buried. With the idea of storage on systems being so minuscule, both on the PlayStation and on the Switch 2, I'm often uninstalling stuff and it feels like it just disappears from my console. I can't just be like, oh, I want to play this game today, throw it in and start playing it. When I uninstall something, it takes hours and hours to reinstall something. I feel like with having physical media, I can walk it to a shelf. I'm more likely to play that game again versus digitally, it just gets lost and I kind of forget about it after I'm done playing it. Honestly, I just forget to look in my digital archive of games on these consoles. I don't know, just to look on the bright side in general of all of this is that honestly, it was delaying the inevitable that physical games were going to stick around. It was sooner or later, we were going to rid video games of its physical restraints. Video games as a whole are outgrowing physical media. Yes, it is a little bit of corporate greed. These companies are looking to save on the plastic and the cards and the discs that come with creating these physical editions of a game, but honestly, they're just not fast enough. I mean, you saw with the Nintendo Switch 2 and the more expensive cards to try and fit all this stuff on there and for the game to actually run and read off of the card cost that much more. To be able to hold the higher fidelity and the speeds that a game needs to look good just is honestly just getting too good for modern game key cards and discs. That's why a lot of times things are prompted with downloading to begin with because it runs better when it's on the actual hardware. They talked about this with the release of Final Fantasy VII on the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know, that's kind of exciting to me because it's looking at games as outgrowing physical media. Physical hardware itself is acting more as a restraint, and without it, things will begin to look better and better. Yet this all raises the question, what will happen to physical game stores once 2028 rolls around and we finally get rid of all of these physical games? I mean, majority of these stores make most of their profit on release day when games come out and people line up and grab that latest physical copy. I mean, I like to think that people will still go to retro game stores because I mean, it's in the title. If you're looking for an older game, you'll probably want to go to one of these stores and pick it up. I'd like to think that in a couple years time, physical games for the PS4 and PS5 will go up in price because people are looking for that physical release of a game. They're looking for that physical media the way that records and vinyls kind of came back in 2020. People wanted to feel like they physically owned some of their music. Your collectors will always look to own all of the physical media. But on top of that, I feel like the loss of a place to go to get games kind of sucks. It feels like the loss of a community. I love going to bookstores and video game stores because it feels like you can go to a space where there's a lot of like-minded individuals who like the things that you like, especially in a medium like gaming where you're majority by yourself playing a game on your monitor. I mean, a lot of games lack that socialization aspect to it. Majority of the games that I like aren't multiplayer. And even in multiplayer games, a lot of people play those by themselves. The thing that really sucks about this coming out right now is I feel like I'm actually quite positive about the gaming industry. Yes, prices are awful right now. Game prices in general, especially with things like GTA 6 being upwards of $100. The $80 version is only like a light version, but you know, it's GTA. They can do whatever they want. I'm actually very excited about the age of gaming that we are in terms of games coming out. It finally feels like smaller AAA studios can actually release things that are competing with big AAA studios, things that are equally as fun. We're finally in a time where smaller smaller companies are able to flourish and compete with some of these larger studios. I'm excited for games like Blood Message and Phantom Blade. As someone who likes to collect physical media, this is definitely very sad to think about. It really just boils down to just having digital fatigue in general. It feels like everything is disappearing. The idea of pre-owned games as we know it is going to completely disappear. It's not going to be a thing. I enjoy actually getting pre-owned games, getting games for a couple dollars cheaper. I mean, most time it's anywhere between 20 to 30, or even on like new games at GameStop, it's like $5. But $5 help with how expensive games are nowadays. It just sucks to see these pre-owned games go away, because then you have to rely on these stores, these eShops, these PlayStation Store, these Xbox stores to actually decide when they want to cut a price. It kind of monopolizes how much an older game should cost. I feel like things are less likely to go on sale and be able to get it at a more affordable price. I don't really care if something's pre-owned. I don't mind saving a couple dollars just because it's used. The idea of digital with the way that these consoles are kind of sucks, because I mean, my PlayStation I think is only 500 gigabytes, and then my Nintendo Switch is only 250 gigabytes. With games like Final Fantasy, I saw on the eShop the other day, I was really excited to actually pick it up. It was only $15 and it was on sale, but I physically could not download it onto my console because it is 92 gigabytes on a console that is already 250 gigabytes. That's like a third of my storage. Nintendo is kind of coming out as the hero a little bit with their key cards, because so many people are, looking back and saying, well, at least they have a physical option, because PlayStation is just outright getting rid of the entire thing. And I mean, one of the centered arguments around all of this is, yes, I know, for a while now, almost the past 3 years, there has not been a physical game for PlayStation that has had the entire game on the disc. There's only like a couple gigabytes on these discs, and it actually just houses the license. But in general, I just like to have physical media. It feels like with a lot of digital games, it feels like things just get buried with these different interfaces created by PlayStation and Nintendo. Things just get buried in the digital landscape with all of the games and things that I have, especially with how small the storage is in general on these consoles. You have to uninstall stuff and then it just gets kind of thrown into the abyss. These companies are trying to save on manufacturing costs, but at the cost of the consumer. I mean, the moral of the story is this is just one more thing that's going entirely digital. The way that I used to experience something, and going back to just when I was really excited when I was younger to get new DS games and being able to play my OG 360 games, being able to trade games with friends if I want to, will just, I guess, not be a thing anymore for future generations.